Well, good morning to you, or is it good afternoon? It's likely 1 minute, 2 minutes past 12 o'clock to start our live stream today. Hope everybody is well. Welcome to your mortgage live stream. Want to keep you up to date with what's going on in the mortgage marketplace. Lots happening, of course. Getting into a sort of pre-Christmas lull a little bit. We were talking to some clients this morning who are in the new homes market, and of course you've got the changeover in the help to buy, and you've just got this need where people may not be able to get completed by March for the stamp duty, but hey, things are moving along really well. And something I've been involved in a lot with clients recently is protection sales. Now everybody knows you need protection sales with mortgages because it's the right thing to do. Don't care about commissions and income, it's the right thing to do. And when you ever have a death claim, in other words, you sell a life policy and you have to deal with a death claim, it really hits home to you why you need life insurance, income protection, all those good things. Back in the day when I worked at the Pru, we had death claims, I dealt with them. Very harrowing, really proves the point. Anyway, so today I've got a couple of ideas to help you with selling protection, pretty much on the technical side. And we've got a nice little idea for you around fact finding. So let's crack on then with our first topic of this morning's live stream. Yeah, hi, let's take a look at the topic of sickness benefits. Now we're talking here about your customer getting ill, short-term, long-term, whatever it is. So we're talking here about sickness benefits. So let's pop this one up on our whiteboard for you. Those of you, of course, on the podcast, you can't see the whiteboard, but I'm sure you'll be able to imagine it along the way. Sickness benefits we're talking about here. That's clearly quite nicely at the top there. Now we're talking here about the products which mortgage advisors sell. And there's two types of products really that we get involved in. There's the income protection plan, or IPP as it's known as, income protection plan. There's also the critical illness. Now you'll be wanting to sell these to clients or advise them. In fact, the old adage is you have to sell these things. People don't buy this stuff, do they? They used to say it back in the 80s and 90s, but it's still true even now, even with the modern generation that we have upon us. And the pure fact is you have to sell it. So before you start advising or selling them, you've got to know what the government or what the state provides people, because you need to outline this and talk about it, and it needs to be taken into account when working out sums insured, that sort of thing. So there's a couple here which we need to have a quick look at. The first one is statutory sick pay. So I'm going to put this one over here, statutory sick pay. Now statutory sick pay, or SSP as it's known, has been around for donkey's years, SSP. But it's only for one class of employed person, i.e. the employees, because you have to be paying national insurance. Get a different colour pen for this one. You have to pay national insurance to get this one, but only in class 1. Now class 1 national insurance is paid by employees, so self-employed people don't get it. So you have to be employed, and the whole point is that after 4 days of sickness you get statutory sick pay paid to you, plus 4 days, paid by the employer. Obviously government fund it, and it's designed to sort of keep the wolf from the door really. It's not an awful huge amount of money. It's not means tested, and it's taxable as well. So these are important things. They're non-means tested, and we've talked about that topic before, means testing. That's of course where they look at your income, they look at your capital, and but it's taxable. And you tend to find this is the case with the majority of benefits that require a national insurance contribution to get it. They're not means tested, but they're taxable. That kind of gets a good bit of a ring going to it as well. It's payable only for a maximum of 28 weeks, so half a year in my book. After 28 weeks it stops, and you have to then convert over to another benefit which I'll talk about in a second. So that's statutory sick pay, really not a lot going for it really, not a huge amount of money, but it prevents people from being poor. Now a lot of companies of course pay people salaries if they're ill anyway, some as much as 6 months full pay, so they won't ever actually claim for statutory sick pay, but those clients or those companies that don't pay much will give people statutory sick pay. But the big one then, or the relatively new one, is the employment and support allowance. So let's put this one over here for you. Employment, there you go, and support allowance. There you go, let's squeeze that one in there for you. Which replaced incapacity a few years back, so if you're in the marketplace for a while you'll probably recognise those phrases. The whole point behind employment and support allowance is it's a benefit given to somebody that's ill, or they've had an accident, or they're sick, or whatever it is, for a long period of time as well, and it's paid until they return to work. Now SSP is very short term, so employment support allowance goes on for quite a while. There's two types here, and this is quite important really, because this helps you to understand the universal credit thing that's coming in, or is already in, isn't it? There's two types. There's the national insurance contribution based one, and then there's what they call the income based one, income based. So to get the national insurance based ESA, you've got to pay national insurance. You've got to have a record in national insurance. You've got to pay your national insurance every week, every month, and you get slightly more money. But if you don't have a national insurance record, then you get the income based employment and support allowance. Now, in a similar manner to here, we've got this means testing thing going on. Now, the national insurance based one is obviously you have to have NI to get it. Makes sense, we just said that. But it's also not means tested. So it's not means tested. So again, these things tend to be the case. If you pay national insurance to get the benefit, they're not going to means test you. But also it's taxable. Although the amount of money is not huge, so most people probably, if it's all they're receiving, they're not going to be taxed on it because their personal allowance will wipe it out. But the income-based one's very different. You don't need national insurance contributions to get it, so it's available to the majority of people as well, but it is means tested. So it's put in there means tested. It is means tested. So they look at your income, they look at your capital, whether you're going to get it or not. But it's not taxable. Taxable, no it's not. As that one is. So you can see like the correlation between the two. Many questions in the exam actually do ask you those questions for some unknown reason. Probably an easy way of asking a question, isn't it? Now, universal credit is replacing this one here. So let's just sneak that in there for you. So universal credit, which people will apply for now, covers that one. So that one's dealt with in universal credit. Okay, so let's talk more about this benefit, how it works. So employed people and self-employed. Let's take a look at the two categories of people. Now, employed people, who of course would have received statutory sick pay for 28 weeks, then claim their employment and support allowance after the 28 weeks. And then this carries on until they retire. They hit state pension age and it stops. So an employed dude will get 28 weeks of that, and then he or she will then convert over to that, because they've got the national insurance record, and they'll get that until they retire. So it's not a huge amount of money, but it's enough to sort of, you know, just about cover the bills, I suppose, although arguably it's probably not. Now, self-employed have to claim the employment and support allowance immediately. So 3 days after they become ill, they'll claim for the employment and support allowance. Obviously, they might have national insurance as well, so they're going to get a decent amount. If they don't have national insurance, they'll claim for that one. So everybody can get it. That's the key thing about it. There's a couple of phases involved here. Now, the whole point about employment and support allowance, I mean, the reason they've called it employment and support is not just a fancy dancy branding. They actually want to support you to go back to work. That's the whole point. The old incapacity and the old sickness benefits require people to be off ill, and they encourage you to be off ill. But this one wants you to go back. So what happens is when you qualify for it, they go through this assessment phase. Now, an assessment phase is where for 13 weeks, so let's put a little sort of a time scale here, shall we? Try and help you out really. So the assessment phase, does that sneak into the recording? I think you've just about got that one on that one, haven't you? Lasts for 13 weeks. And what happens here is they're going to assess you. They're going to get the state doctor involved and all sorts of occupational health and everybody involved in assessing you to make sure that you qualify for it. For illness, not how much you're loaded with, money-wise, but whether you're ill enough to get it. Because there are some people that, you know, they do what they do. So they need to make sure you are either physically ill or mentally ill. Both are just as devastating. So for 13 weeks they assess you. And then they have this thing called the support phase, or the work-related phase. So that then moves on to the support phase. This is where they support you, and they give you opportunities to look at work that's possible for you, and they'll help you get some work, unless of course you're severely ill, If you're severely ill, they'll help you out with further disability benefits, maybe some housing benefits as well. So they will look at you and look at your situation, very much geared to what you are all about, really, when it comes to it. And that pretty much is statutory sick pay and employment and support allowance. Don't forget your NIs and your means tested. Those definitely come up as an exam. And the universal credit, of course, takes over the income-based version. That takes over benefits that are not geared towards national insurance contributions. That's the whole point about universal credit. Hope that's been a good update for you. Bye. Great. Okay, so yeah, not particularly exciting, but very relevant, of course, when it comes to it. So let's get rid of this one for a second, and then we'll move on to our next benefit for you, which I want to wrap up our session for you this morning. Hope everybody's well. Christmas in a couple of weeks' time, of course, but we've got 3 more main weeks of working, and then we've got Christmas time to enjoy. So yeah, getting quite excited. We've got our tree at the weekend, and getting it decorated. Now, we weren't one of those people on LinkedIn that went onto LinkedIn with their... I saw this fella this morning, he was there with his child on his arm, and he had this Christmas tree all beautifully decorated, and he was like posing in front of the camera saying, hey, look at us, we're ready for Christmas. You know, handsome dude, all that kind of stuff. People are just ridiculous, aren't they, on these things? But Christmas is upon us. Let's now talk about our next benefit for you, just to keep you up to date, really. Well, let's take a look at death, shall we? Bereavement benefits. Death is what we're looking at here. And I'm going to type this one the bereavement benefits, because that's what they call them now. Bereavement, of course. When you are bereaving, you're bereaving the loss of a loved one. And the whole point is that a couple, civil partners, married partners, if one dies, the other one's going to struggle. So bereavement benefits come in to help. Now, the life insurance course that we're replacing here is mortgage protection. We're talking about level term assurance, whole of life, maybe if you get involved in those areas. This is the kind of policy that we're going to be advising our clients to support themselves in the event of death, pay off the mortgage, provide a family, life, etc. But we need to be aware of what the state provides. Currently, the state has changed things slightly, and they provide what's called the bereavement support payment. So let's just put another title up there for you, bereavement, there you go, support payment. Again, it does what it says. It's a payment to support you in your time of bereavement. That's a pretty good name for it, really. And it helps the costs of living, plus also the funeral as well. It replaces the old bereavement payment, a bereavement allowance, which I'll have a quick look at for you at the end of this particular video for you. Now, it provides a couple of items. The first thing it provides, get a different colour pen here for you, it gives you a big lump sum of up to £3,500 currently. I don't think that'll change for a while. That's your lumper. That's designed for the funeral, really, at the end of the day. These things cost money, and that's designed for that. And then for 18 months then, it'll give you a sum of money to get you on your feet as such. It's not a bad sum of money. It'll look after you. It's okay, isn't it? And if you've got children, it gives you a higher monthly figure. So that's the right thing to do, isn't it? If you've got children to look after, you get a higher monthly amount. You'll never get tested on the amounts because they all vary. You may get them in the tax sheet, but I wouldn't really worry about that. Now, it's paid to all ages of the deceased spouse, because we're talking here about death, aren't we? I mean, somebody has died here. There you go. There's your funeral thing. Somebody has died, and somebody is left behind. So it pays to the person who's left behind, of course. The person who's dead effectively had the plan, if you like to put it that way. So it's paid to all ages, and it continues as well, even if the person left behind remarries or has a live-in partner or something. It used to be the case that they would lose it, but now it's paid onwards, really. And so it should really at the end of the day. Now, it is dependent, though, on national insurance. So the person that's died, this person here, has had to have had a national insurance record in order to get it. You know, which makes sense, isn't it? And it's payable until state pension age. It's tax-free. at the end of the day. It's not means tested, and it's not geared towards the cap. So it's quite a interesting product as such, isn't it, when it comes to it? Dependent on the ex-spouse's national insurance record as well. So, they've got to have that record, and it's payable until state pension age. So it's not a bad benefit, as you can appreciate. There's not much more to it than that, really. It's paid, and it's something that's worth bearing in mind, really. Now, it did replace the old bereavement allowance. So let's put that one in there for you. It did replace what they call the old bereavement allowance. I don't want to get too much about this one because it's gone now, isn't it? But the old bereavement allowance, which was a combination of factors, really, that came in 3 parts. That used to be a payment of £2,000, which was given to the deceased spouse, of course. Then there was a parent's allowance, a widowed parent's allowance, which was paid as a monthly figure as well. And then there was the bereavement allowance itself. So the parent, if they had children, of course, got more, and the allowance was paid to people that didn't have children, but that wasn't paid for very long. That was only paid if people were above age 45, and it wasn't paid forever either. It ceased on marriage. It stopped, of course, on cohabiting, and it stopped at state retirement age. So, bit of a pickle, really. Just mention that in passing. But the new one now is the bereavement support payment, which is the current one. So people do get something if they die. Not a lot. So therefore, you need to think about providing them with life insurance, which provides them with a lump sum or income, which can pay off the mortgage and provide them with income. But you do also need to take into account what they get from work, just to make sure that you take that into account. Do they get some death in service benefits as well? So good advisors will always take down the details as to what people receive. That's pretty much it. Bye. Great. Hope you enjoyed that. Not particularly exciting, was it, our live stream today, but it updates you on things that are going on. Next week we'll take a look at some of the other sickness benefits as well for you. Next week we're going to take a look at the welfare benefits for income support, child benefits, those sort of things, and we'll have a quick look at disability benefits as well, just to update you. And we'll do a couple of skill-based sessions as well along the way. Other than that, have a great week. It's not particularly good weather out there, but hopefully you can get your Christmas tree sorted and decorated and all those good things. Keep working. Got 3 more weeks till Christmas, and then next year we've got vaccine year, isn't it? The year of the vaccine. So I don't know if that'll make a huge difference. It'll probably do it later in the year anyway. People don't appreciate it takes a long time to vaccinate. They reckon 42 million people need vaccinated in the country to create this kind of herd thing. So 42 million is a lot of people to vaccinate. You can imagine the number of syringes that are needed. Must be, if I was in the manufacture of syringes, I'd be well pleased by now. So let's hope that next year is a better year than it has been this year. We'll see you all next week.